appears to be back on track after a temporary hold earlier today. The delay came after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office accused Hamas of creating a last-minute crisis by demanding new concessions. The Israeli cabinet is now set to vote on the agreement tomorrow. And for a discussion, let's bring in Israel Ellis, the author of Wake Up Call, the book Wake Up Call, and a parent of an IDF soldier. Israel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tara.
And I just want to start and ask you, so do you think this deal will be finalized tomorrow?
Look, I think that, no one knows better than Mr. Trump what the art of the deal is. And I've been in business for 30 years negotiating thousands of deals in my time. And I've learned two vital principles. Number one, that you need to structure deals that you'd accept if roles were reversed to ensure mutual respect and stability. And second, ambiguity is destructive. Clear terms and pathways for any deal is essential to prevent misinterpretation and bad faith, especially in phased agreements. And what we've got here is we've got a recipe for, for failure, just not set up for success. Number one, Hamas has showed us from its inception, when it first did the Mecca agreement in 2007 with Fatah, they can't even internally keep their word. But throughout the last, a pretty well 15 years or so that Hamas has been controlling the Strip, mind you, without any elections, and victimizing its population. Really, they're bad people, and just absolutely zero deals come through. They do a deal. So what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with bad faith actors. And of course, I would like this deal to happen. I mean, we would like these hostages to come home. We don't even know if live hostages are coming home. We don't know what the deal is. And yet we are being told that they have to release 1,000 prisoners, dangerous criminals. And 20% of them, about 190 of those prisoners, are serving extended sentences for murder and for a whole bunch of other terrorist activity. So, I mean, I think that, everyone can make their own conclusions. We definitely want the hostages home. There's no question about it. But we haven't got a lot to work with. And I would say that the families of the hostages, they're on a roller coaster. And Israel is constantly dealing with this. And what bothers me more than anything is giving these people a seat at the table. There is no two sides. There is no right for Hamas to have a seat at the table. And yet they continue to manipulate the situation internationally, forcing Israel into an impossible situation. It's absolutely shameful that these people have a seat at the table. They're horrific animals.
Yeah, I covered the war in 2014 in Israel, the 2014 war in Gaza. And again, Netanyahu was coming out and saying they wanted to destroy Hamas, defeat Hamas, and then they ended up going into a ceasefire. Well, again, look at what happened now on October 7th. And I just want to ask you, you're a father, you have an active duty IDF soldier. How does this agreement make you feel from the IDF sacrifices that have been made in Gaza?
Listen, we do not want any more IDF soldiers to die. These are young people, incredible souls that have been put into the line of fire through no call of their own. And they're dedicated. They're absolutely dedicated. Our son, Eitan, is an unbelievable person, along with all lone soldiers. There's a tremendous number of lone soldiers coming from Canada and USA who are dedicating themselves to the IDF, the defense of Israel, and as well as the soldiers that are there. So, of course, as a parent, anything that keeps my son out of the line of fire, I am thrilled with. But I know what's going to happen. We know what the result is going to be. We know how quickly this is going to be unraveling, and we are bringing in some of the most dangerous terrorists back into Gaza to rearm themselves and to redeploy and to go out there and attack IDF. It just doesn't make sense to me, Tara. It doesn't make sense at all.
This has happened in the past where there were 1,000 Palestinians that were released in exchange for an IDF soldier, and one of those, the Palestinian prisoners, was Yahya Sinwar, who planned October 7th. So how do you anticipate, you've been touching on it, but I mean, just how dangerous is that? And is there a way that you can still defeat Hamas in the end?
I can tell you that there's for sure another Sinwar in this group of hostages that are going to be released. Is there a way to defeat Hamas? The only way to defeat Hamas is total decimation. You are dealing with the lovers of death. These people do not subscribe to MAD. My book is based on the fact that Western nations have grown up. We've all grown up around the idea between the East and West battle for supremacy is the idea that we subscribe to this theory called MAD, mutually assured destruction. Well, you cannot have mutually assured destruction when you don't value life. And the main problem, the fundamental issue over here, is that Hamas has a doctrine of martyrdom. And so you've got nothing to, what have you got to negotiate with? We have very little to negotiate with over here. And the only answer at the end of the day is total decimation. And the Iranian regime, and I've got to bring them in, I'm sorry, because they are responsible for the Houthi, for the Hezbollah, for Hamas. They are a sponsor of the proxy of terror, and these proxies of terror have done nothing but wreak havoc on the Middle East and the region. And you've got to look to the stake, and you've got to take care of the head of the stake, and I certainly hope Mr. Trump is looking after that.
And I want to touch base on that. It's not only Iran, it's also Turkey, and it's Qatar as well that have been funding Hamas. So to see Qatar come out there and have also have a voice was disheartening to see. But I want to go to your book you just touched on, A Wake-Up Call. So talk about that. What made you write that book? And really, what do you want readers to take away? And talk about the anti-Semitism that you talk about and the concern you have for it.
My wife and I went to Israel in January because we were very concerned about our son, and we wanted to understand something that everybody is asking. How did this happen? This is 5,000 terrorists packed with 8 days of goods and duffel bags to be able to survive. How do they get drones and RPGs and all of this stuff under the noses of Israelis? And so this is something that really plagued me. It's something that plagues everybody out there. And so I started to make an observation, and I created 7 observations, which is what the Wake-Up Call is about, that deals with 7 different observations that I have made of how the October 7th happened and how this war has taken place. And I'll tell you something that is key to all this. That this has taken over 2 years. Some say longer, but I'll say at least 2 years in planning. That the international community has been responsible via UNRWA as an agency to perpetuate the Palestinian crisis and to bring in all these arms. And literally, they are responsible. If the UN and the UNRWA are singularly responsible for being a conduit to build up the arms of Hamas and to do this, the betrayal of society in the Western Hemisphere. When I go to and I see the protests and the encampments, and I see Queers for Palestine, and I see all of this crazy dissonance that's going on out there that are supporting, then rationalizing that this is an act of resistance. This is not an act of resistance. These people are murderers. They have bludgeoned and raped. And, when I see feminists get up there and talk about Hamas being an act of resistance and the genocide that didn't happen, or accusing Israel, I am just disgusted at this distance. So I feel, as a Jewish person, as a North American, especially as a Canadian, and that's a whole other conversation with what we've had to deal with here, that show. But I feel betrayed. And that's what the Wake-Up Call talks about. It's time to wake up, because global jihad is here. The jihadists have invaded, and they are coming. And we have to change the syllabus of hate. And we have to, and there's a conflict with the First Amendment that I talk about in terms of free speech versus being able to identify hate and being able to legislate, and government to have the agency to do something about it. Biden has totally messed that up. I am really praying that Trump is going to be resolved and is going to put a stop to this madness.
What do you see when you look at all these anti-Israel, pro-Hamas protests that have taken place throughout the United States? And we're anticipating some even this weekend now. Some of these groups that are planning to protest at the inauguration for President Trump, they are part of the anti-Israel groups. What do you anticipate them doing? Where do you see that going?
Honestly, these people disgust me. They should go and go off to Gaza, go off to Iran. They should go move there. They are sacrificing a beautiful way of life that we have been building. This is nothing more than wokeism left hiding behind anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic values. And we got to call it for what it is, Tara.
Yeah.
This is anti-Semitism at its highest point since 1933, since the Nazi, and I do not like to compare anything to the Holocaust or the Nazis, but I have to tell you that I am really scared out there, and I feel completely betrayed. It is completely bizarre that young people out there think that they found a cause behind the Palestinian people, that they found a cause that is against everything that we value, that we have worked hard for, that their parents have worked hard for, that people have come to America and for the price that we've paid for the freedom that we have today. And they're basically thumbing their finger at these privileged white kids who have absolutely no clue. And it's not just them. I believe that Iranian regime and Qatar, you've mentioned them, and Turkey, they have financed all of everything that's going on, and we've allowed it. It's happened under our noses since the Obama administration, when he bent his knee to the Saudi Arabians and to them. We have an opportunity here to continue the Abraham Accords. We have an opportunity to make peace with our cousins here, with our brothers and sisters.
Israel, unfortunately, we have to go, but we so appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tara. The book is available on Amazon. I hope everyone goes out there and gets a copy and learns about the wake-up call.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, coming up later.